We are back with the episode Jules from, I guess...
It's not season 2.
It's like an in-between.
Yeah. It's also technically called Fuck Anyone Who's Not a Sea Blob.
I don't...
Yeah, I don't really get it.
I don't care for that. Right out of the gate, I want to make clear that these are exceptional works of art and exceptional hours of television. I appreciate this, and I'm ultimately glad that we're getting this.
Yeah.
There is something to be desired because we're chomping at the bit for season 2. This is not season 2.
It's really, really good. It's not Euphoria.
Well, it is, but it's like... It's kind of like it's like bonus material.
This one was more Euphoria than the Rue one was, but still.
I wanted to pause the episode and have a full-fledged conversation probably about 6 times in the first 15 minutes.
Yeah.
She just was blowing through topics. And in that regard, it did feel like it felt authentic, like a first therapy.
Well, a first therapy for like a 17-year-old trans girl who is like going through a major friend/romantic breakup and, you know, things with her mom and things with her dad. And like, it is a lot.
The trans stuff was just fascinating to watch because it's like we, as in cis people, are very rapidly attempting to play catch up. We're really trying to fill in the blanks in our knowledge. And I think, as with many minority, I guess is what I'm going for.
Yeah.
You can think you're like, no, I don't see color. I got it. And the meaning is good. What you're attempting to say is good.
Yeah. But that just saying I don't see that about you is an erasure of its own. And it's also like you can't, then you're maintaining your ignorance about the situation.
Because I was watching this with my mind blown because I was like, what must it be to be a trans girl?
Well, that's what
because so much of femininity, cis femininity, is performing for men.
She was doing that. And I was thinking about it a lot while I was doing this makeup. Because I was like...
You come out just like scowling. Just no makeup.
I literally was watching that scene and I was like, I cannot imagine having to perform femininity as a trans girl because it is
a young trans girl.
It is hard enough as a cis woman to like try and navigate the things and perform femininity in a way that feels authentic to you, but is still like accepted by the world at large and stuff. And then to add absolutely wild.
And then to add a layer where it's like she's very much not. I wouldn't say that. And Hunter Schafer at this point, not even Jules. I wouldn't say that she's on the front line because the front line's is Marsha P. Johnson.
Sure,
you know, but it's like she's really a pioneer in this field. And I feel like we have to acknowledge this. I know this is not all that it's about, but it's the fact that she is very feminine. She is very beautiful. She is very classically, traditionally desirable.
Yeah.
That has to add layers.
Of course. Yeah.
Can you imagine how many times she has to hear like, oh, but you're not like the other one.
Oh,
like,
God,
do you know what I mean? Like,
I can't
it's just
even.
All that kind of baggage and unpacking, let alone that this is a teenage girl.
Of
like,
course.
And that's my issue is because watching the first 15 minutes of this, I was just sort of like,
well, it was like
infinitely.
Literally the moment it started and you realized she's in therapy, you just went, oh, God.
Not even seconds. Yeah. I uttered, and you were like, are you upset? And I was like, it's just going to be a lot.
It is, yeah. And it was.
And we did see that, I don't remember how this fared with the rest of the season, but Hunter was credited as a writer and producer.
Yeah.
Because as it was happening, I was like, this is authentic. There's got to be.
Yeah, this is like this is too correct.
It is sort of fascinating because I was even a little bit jarred when they cut back to the wide shot and the way she was sitting on the couch. Because I was anticipating her sitting more properly.
Yeah.
But the way she was just so like...
she was like legs akimbo.
Yeah.
She just was like
just
very...
hunched,
And I think part of that is she mentioned a couple times in to the therapist that she was considering going off her hormones. And so I think it was like a different kind of performance, trying to see what that would elicit. And also just, I think she's just in a like kind of dunzo place where she's like, I don't have it.
Which that was but a blip for people like us, where we're like, is that even a thing? I mean, of course, everything's a thing, but it's just sort of like, imagine, it's not unlike, you know, the first crop of like, couples that were same sex, like gay married. It's like Ellen and Portia at a certain point have to feel a duty to make their relationship work.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, because I feel a similar way about women's issues. Like, we're currently in the middle of watching Big Mouth, and it is handling women's
body image.
Yeah, well, particularly menstruation and stuff.
Oh,
it's handling it very head on.
It is very direct.
Direct, yes. Yeah. And I, as a cis man, appreciate that, because you can't
couch things like this in metaphor, because then you still don't understand. You have to sometimes just be like, this is what
this
the thing
is. The reality.
This is what happens. And if you need to put Kristen Wiig's voice on a little animated vagina who's coughing up blood clots, so be it.
But it's like, it's the kind of thing where it's like, yes, I believe that it should exist in a specific place. Like, I don't think that should be, you know, commercials for tampons.
There is that one that keeps saying gush, and I'm not about that.
But my point is, it's like, especially the reality we live in, where it's a patriarchy, and also, so men are, you know, dominant and in control, but also everything that the society does is in an attempt to protect us.
Yeah.
And our fragile understand, like, it's like the amount of effort we go into upholding this fragile.
I just saw this TikTok thing about where some girl showed her boyfriend how tampons work. And he was like, oh my God. He just like had she put it in like a soda bottle so he could see how much it like expanded and everything. And he was like, ugh. I'm just like, you should know that.
We don't though.
But you should.
We're given so little.
No, I know.
And yeah, so regardless, I've thoroughly loved this show being so frank and matter of fact, and Hunter is so free and open, and it
is like a delight to watch her just be herself. I dig it. Like, in real life, on the show, I just dig it.
It was a sexy episode. It was a terrifying episode.
It was real sexy.
I am so attracted to her. I find her to be so desirable.
She is. I'm with you. She's super, super hot.
I am just like, because there's a point where she's like taking the pictures for like Shy Guy or whatever. And I'm like, this is a snuff film.
Kind of, yeah. It feels
like it's almost stomach churning.
It's lit kind of sickly, and she just keeps on putting different bras
American Apparel.
And she also like, but also her eyes are like dead while she's doing it. It's yeah, it's stomach churning. I cannot imagine being a youth and dating right now.
I mean, it's a free-for-all.
I can't.
It's just an absolute total jungle out there. Like,
I don't like that. It was enough of a jungle when we were young, and there wasn't texting and sexting.
See, I feel like I have a window into it because I was on two levels.
Yeah.
Like, I had a complete, like, my sexuality and my sex life existed on separate tracks.
Oh, okay, sure.
So I didn't do exactly what Jules did.
Sure.
But my sexuality, my coming of age sexuality is closer to Jules's than yours is.
Well, that's accurate. Yeah. I mean, she's getting, railed by Eric Dane in the hotel room, and I was 19 before I had sex with anyone.
So, but it's like, I understand that the sort of the disconnect and being very mature in one breath, but getting home in time to like quite literally play with toys, or do you know what I mean? Like, just that sort of.
Well, and the things she's saying to the therapist, where she was like, she and the Shy Guy, who we know is Nate, were like sexting, and she was like, it was the best sex I've ever had, even though that sounds weird. And the therapist,
because I judged her in that moment.
I did a little bit too, but the therapist what made it so fulfilling, and I was like, oh, I get it. And then she was like, it was just pure fantasy.
Because you might be naive, but to completely disregard that a young person has sexuality.
Sure.
Like,
well, I only judged her because I was like, it's not, you're sexting. It's like,
yeah, no,
but then she was like, because it was pure fantasy, I was like, oh.
And again, it's so understandable when you take just a minute to think about it, but she has such a warped perspective. And
well, it's very similar to the Rue one, because Rue has a very warped perspective too. That whole scene where she was like, well, she broke up with me. And Ali was like, well, when did you have the conversation that you became girlfriends? And she was like, uh-huh. And I'm just, it was that kind of vibe came
or even like take, for instance, you know, Jules' assimilation into the school. Shy guy aside, you know.
I mean, she did come in hot, cutting herself in the kitchen in the first party.
Oh yeah, I forgot. I thought that was Assassination Nation for a second. No,
right. That was her. That was definitely Jules.
It was so good. We need to watch season 1 again.
We do. We've already discussed it.
Well, yeah. So, anyways, the Rue stuff. Oh my god.
I liked that it.
Go ahead.
I really liked that they both had these sort of fantasies in the same place. Like, it was the same apartment.
Same set.
Yeah, from Rue's. Well, sure, yeah, New York. But it was the same set and apartment and everything. But they had such vastly different fantasies that took place in that, because Jules's was like a nightmare where she like came home to that apartment and found Rue dead of an overdose.
But that was secondary. Yeah. It was primarily her and Tyler, who was an amalgam of, which actually the actor is a porn star. I looked him up. So you were like, ooh, penis.
Yeah. I was like, that's just a dick out.
Yeah. So anyways, but yeah, that was her primary fantasy. Yeah. And then Rue was guilt and an afterthought.
Yeah.
And I like that it was, oh God, I'm trying to think of how I want to say this. There are very obvious answers to a lot of issues. And a lot of times when shows use them, I tend to sort of scoff or roll my eyes or feel gypped. Like, I'm like, this is such a cop-out. Okay. Like, for instance, Jules's hang-ups, Jules's issue with Rue's are mommy issues. A lot of shows, I would kind of be like, oh my God, seriously? And this show had a way of clobbering us with that in a way that it didn't feel like a shorthand. Like, it wasn't like a cop-out. It was like, oh God.
You're like, oh no, this goes deeper than I thought.
Her attraction, Jules' attraction to Rue is firmly, I think she genuinely cares about Rue. I'm not trying to say this in a negative way, but I feel like Jules's and at the cornerstone of her attraction to Rue is that Rue loves her.
Yes. Yeah.
It's like, I love you because you love me.
Yeah, and it's also...
And I'm able to
it does filter,
go through certain motions with you.
And it does filter into the mom stuff, because it's like, it's lower stakes than having your mom be an addict and stuff. But then if you flip it over, Rue's attraction to Jules is partially daddy issues, because her dad got sick and died, and that was what sort of impacted her becoming an addict, because she was stealing his pills. And I think it's like she sees this other sort of like this person who knows herself so completely in a way that Rue never has, because she's been doing drugs since she was like 12. I think it's a very seductive thing to be like, well, you are the stability I'm looking for, even though they both are fucked up beyond. You know.
And it's like a surrogate thing, because there is a baseline between Rue and her mother.
Yeah.
So she like the addict part, she is familiar to her, but Rue is, especially given the sexual nature of the relationship, Rue is, I guess, more functional. Rue is giving her more than her mother was.
Sure, yeah.
And so
and Rue also never put her in a facility.
The mother stuff, I don't, we've made clear, or I've said, I don't really remember. I mean, I remember elements of season 1. But I don't remember everything. So I forget what stuff we knew about her mom and what stuff was given to us here.
I'm not sure we 100% knew she was an addict.
That felt kind of new. I don't remember.
Yeah.
That was the plot element that I was like, okay, this is getting, and not that I think it was too far, but that was the fourth thing that I was like, okay,
sure.
Weird.
Yeah. Well, and you're right. I mean, her dad kept being like, Jules, come on. And it's like, dude, shut up.
I got so angry at her dad.
She's old enough to know whether or not she wants to have a relationship with her mother. And look, I definitely agree that like making amends is an important part of a 12-step process. If you need to make amends, that's fine. But it's also, it's not the responsibility of the person you're making amends with to forgive you. And it did feel like she was coming there for forgiveness from Jules. And that's not how you can't approach it that way.
I was so heated because I was like, I agree. I think Jules does need to confront her mother.
Yeah.
And I do think she should forgive her when she's fucking ready.
Yeah.
Consent means more than you can have sex with me.
Yeah.
And her parents did not care about her consent and about her
No, because
feelings.
her dad literally
They made it clear.
They ambushed her with the mom
and that
being in the house when she came home from school.
That gets me heated because there's been a handful of times in my life where I have said no and I still had to do it. And
well, it's the type of thing, it's like, it's such a weird thing. I've seen a handful of things like semi-recently in the last few years on the internet where it's like, if your kid doesn't want to hug a family member at Christmas, don't force them to. And it's like, the first time I saw it, I was like, well, that's weird. I had to hug my family all the time. And I'm not very physically affectionate. And so I remember one time they were like, I was like maybe 11 or 12. It was like, you're in one of those weird age spots. And they were like, go hug your cousin Sean. And I was like, I don't want this. Why are you? And they forced us to hug and he wasn't really into it either. And I was like, come on. I don't understand why this is what you're like forcing on like a family member. It just feels so bizarre. And that's a very similar thing where it's like, it's not just about, penetrative sex. You should have agency over your emotions and anything that you do. And oftentimes parents like that are like, well, you don't know what you want. And it's like, she's 16, 17. She knows what she wants.
I was so mad. And I like her dad by all accounts. He's a good dad. Supportive.
Yeah.
But it was just kind of, and you can
be very good and supportive about like an important thing and then still shitty at other stuff. That's possible.
I like yelled at him at one point. I was like, dude, shut the fuck up.
It was the Halloween because they had like found her mom. He was on the phone and she had like run away and there were pills in her room and then they found her and she was like in a facility.
I also don't play that game with people. It's something that my mom taught me when I was young, and for whatever reason, it resonated with me. But it's like the second people start like, I don't know how it's not appropriate for me to explain the story further, and I don't know how to. Once people start like putting their well-being in your hands as like an ultimatum. Get the fuck out. I am not responsible for your shitty behavior.
But that's another one of those weird dynamics between Rue and Jules, because Rue hangs her sobriety on Jules. She's like, I'm sober because I'm happy with you. And Jules is like, I can't handle that pressure that's already on me from another place as well.
And also that's part of what drew her too.
It is just like a weird, gross, codependent cycle where it's like, it actually could be a good relationship, but they both have things. They're too young for this to be a good relationship.
Because I was a little bit pleased, happy, glad that they brought up the fact that this was a female, that this was a cis woman that Jules is interested in. Yeah. Because as I recall, the first season didn't really touch on that. And I was curious. I was like, well, that's interesting. Like,
well, she did mention in this that she was the first woman, girl that Jules had ever been into.
And she was like, and it made me feel weird at first. Yeah. And this sounds contradictory, but hey, I'm good at it. I hate this obsession with labeling everything. However, I like the option to label things. I like being able to be like, oh, so like when I meet people, I'm just like, oh, hi, I'm gay. Because that's the most efficient way to communicate, When we start getting into like, well, I'm technically demi pan, never on a Tuesday. Like, you get into these things. And so for me, there
is such an element of like, I think my favorite description of asexuality is David from Schitt's Creek, where he's like, sometimes I like red wine and sometimes I like white wine and sometimes I like a rosé or like a Cabernet that used to be a Chardonnay. And it's just like, I appreciate that because there are so many things. You're right. When you get down into the like every possible label that you have, it's just like, it is easier to just say I'm gay or I'm queer.
I don't want to make assumptions where it's like, I don't want to just assume that because she's a trans girl that she's straight, that she likes men, or is she bisexual? And it's like, I don't want her to feel the need to confine herself to a label.
Sure.
But I also don't mind having help understanding you.
Yeah. I think it's
and I think that's what life is about, period.
Yeah. I really, man, I really, really liked all of that stuff about this episode, because when one of the couple times she talked about transitioning, she was like, well, I think part of it is because she was like, if I'm gonna be interested in a girl, I think she's a little scared of being a lesbian. You know what I mean? Where she's like, she had accepted being trans, and then she was like, but now I like this girl. And I think that's part of what kept making her say, I'm going to go off my hormones, which is so fascinating to me, because I think she had never met anybody like Rue before. And I don't think she knew it was an option to like a girl that much, which is so wild and fascinating. But the other thing is that I think if she went off her hormones, I don't know. I mean, obviously Rue is attracted to Jules just as a human, but I don't think she wants a boyfriend. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean,
so it's fascinating
so
to watch some of the stuff play out.
I just like anthropologically, this show is overflowing. I love it.
And I mean, this is obvious, like this is symbolism 101, but I loved all the stuff with the ocean.
Yes.
That shot of her laying out in the water and the praying to the ocean and stuff, because it's like, that's very, for a second, not just because I'm me, I was like, are we going to see her as a mermaid?
No.
Because mermaids are symbolic of of being in between.
Yeah.
You know? And it's a symbol, because I can't remember the organization. It's like, I think it's like Project Mermaid or something, and it's for trans youth and stuff.
Oh, yeah. I think you're right. Yeah.
We did see actually Nate's face in this episode.
We did for a second.
What that's where I'm at, is what is this show gonna be like in season 2?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Because I just don't see how we can come back from the stuff Nate did.
Yeah.
And I don't know I can't imagine how to continue this. Because I was in I ship Nate and Jules place, and that's not compatible.
No.
That doesn't work.
No. Because he was like,
I think Shy Guy, I think he has a fractured.
Well, but he also was like, I could get you arrested for child pornography because you sent me those pictures.
God, yeah, well, yeah.
And I'm just like, you're right. I don't know how we come back from that. It's very odd.
And I think you said this with the Christmas one, but it's like, meanwhile, what the fuck is Maude Apatow up to?
Yeah, right? I'm just like,
where's
Maude Apatow? She's just having like a delightful Christmas?
She binged watched Bridgerton. Like,
amazing.
She's going to be so ready to talk. And then it's like, oh, shit.
We're in the middle of something.
So then I guess that was fine. That was as best we could do, having watched it once. And
yeah. I don't think I could watch
it again
twice in a row. That's so much. It was really, really good. Lauren Weidman was the therapist. Also very good. I like, as soon as it started and you were like, oh God, it's therapy, I was like, unless it's Robin Weigert in that other chair, I don't know what I'm going to do. And then it was Lauren Weidman, and I was like, that's a lateral.
That's a lateral, I was going to say.
It's fine. Yeah, it was good. And you're right, it was more Euphoria than the Rue episode, because there was all the like,
I relate to Jules.
All the imagery with Jules.
I relate to and find Jules's plight more compelling than Rue's.
Well, I think neither of us having ever been addicted to something in a legitimate way where like hospitalization is required and everything, I think it is easier for anybody to relate to Jules, because even leaving out,
I'm more passionate about explorations of sexuality.
Sure. And even leaving out the fact that she is transgender, I think it applies to a wider swath of people, because, you know, anybody going through puberty, it fucking blows. Like, that's no fun for anybody. And so it's that kind of thing is really a lot more universal than like being addicted to substance.
There's the words. She was like big and thick. And I was just like,
she broad and something and thick. Yeah.
She said balls. I was like, whoa, we're going to.
She did say balls. Yeah, I don't know. I really died.
I got it. I knew exactly what she meant.
Yeah, 100%.
But yeah, wow. So I was very, very, very impressed.
Yeah. I mean, I know that this is not news, but I think Sam Levinson is
good.
Definitely
good at his job.
Definitely someone to keep an eye on, because these explorations of like what it means to be young, and he's very in touch with like what it means to be a girl and like how girls are treated, and it's
something like Assassination Nation that your mileage may vary. It's like it took you a long time to decide if you even liked it.
Yeah.
And that didn't mean you didn't appreciate it or weren't fascinated by it.
It took me a long time because it sort of hurt my feelings because of how direct it was and how horrible it was. But I like a year and a half later, I was like, I kind of want to watch Assassination Nation again. That was really good. So it's a lot and all over. I think that's it for Euphoria. It's streaming on HBO Max, or I guess this is coming out on Sunday, so regular HBO. It'll be available for streaming and everything. You can follow us on Twitter @SoI'mWatching or Instagram @SoI'mWatchingThisShow. We also, this will be on YouTube if you're just listening. Is youtube.com/SoI'mWatching
this show.
So I'm watching this show. And everything links out from our website, soimwatching.com.
Rate, review, and subscribe.
Yes. Subscriptions and ratings,
give us
please.
Money.
Comments. We have a Patreon. You can be a patron. It's acting kind of like a tip jar right now, but we would love it.
So yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right. Bye.